Amber wipes the counter with a bar rag. Her palms are damp with sweat. Her back aches from a 10-hour shift. The corner is almost empty. The only people left are a drunk old man at the far end and a couple of lovers. The door opens. He walks in. He doesn't look like a local. His expensive dark suit fits him perfectly. His thick black hair is combed back. His arms, neck, even his hands are covered in intricate tattoos. He's Korean, looks young, but his gaze is old, heavy as stone. He sits down on a chair directly in front of her and stares. Just stares. Silently. Amber feels a shiver run down her spine. She's used to stares. Mocking, pitying, appraising. But this one is different. It studies her like an unusual object. Not as a woman, but as a thing. "Whiskey, no ice," he says. His voice is quiet, low, emotionless. She nods and pours quickly. Her hand is shaking. She places the glass in front of him. He takes it and takes a sip, never taking his eyes off her. "What's your name?" he asks. Amber? Amber, I need a wife." She freezes. At first, she thinks she misheard. Then she feels a surge of burning shame. This is some kind of cruel joke. One of her colleagues has orchestrated this. She looks around, but no one is around. "This isn't funny," she mutters, grabbing the rag again. "I'm not joking. I said, I need a wife. Tomorrow morning at the mayor's office. Be ready by 9. He says this so calmly, as if ordering another whiskey. Amber looks at his face. No smile, no hint of playfulness, only cold, confident seriousness. "You're crazy," she breathes. "I don't know you, you don't know me." "It doesn't matter. You're fine. You're suitable." These words make it even more painful. She knows she's a fat girl. She knows that for men like him, she's invisible, or an object of ridicule. So it was a joke after all. A cruel and humiliating one. "Please go away," she says, her voice breaking. He slowly takes a thick wad of bills out of his inside jacket pocket. He places it on the counter. The bills are new and crisp. "This is for your time. And for your silence. Tomorrow at 9. No need for a white dress. Come in what you're wearing now." He finishes his whiskey and stands up. His movements are smooth, athletic. He passes by, and for a second, his tattooed hand rests on the counter next to hers. "My name is Minho. Don't be late." And he leaves. The door closes quietly behind him. Amber stands, staring at the wad of cash. It's more than she could earn in 6 months. She slowly reaches out and takes it. The money is real. She looks at the empty door, then at her reflection in the dirty mirror behind the bar. A tired face, dull eyes, a work uniform, and the golden hair she loves so much, which now hangs in lifeless strands. He wasn't joking. That's the worst part. Amber doesn't sleep all night. The money sits on the kitchen table like an accusation. She thinks about her life. The small rented room with mold on the walls. The job where she's constantly being pointed at. The loneliness. A vast, all-consuming loneliness. She's 25, but she feels old and unwanted. He, Minho, looks dangerous. His world is a world of dark streets, money, violence. She felt it in every fiber of her being. He's a mafia member, a boss. The word comes to her mind on its own, and it feels right. But he offered a way out. It might be strange. It might be crazy. It wasn't an offer of love. It was a contract. And she'd never had a good contract in her life. At 8 in the morning, she's still sitting at the table. She hasn't eaten. She hasn't drunk coffee. She's just staring out the window at the dirty alley. Her head is a mess. Fear, curiosity, despair. At 8:30, she gets up. She goes to the shower. She puts on the best thing she owns, a simple dark blue dress. It's a little tight around the hips, but she has no other. She brushes her straight golden hair. She looks in the mirror. "You're crazy," she whispers to her reflection. "He'll kill you or sell you." But she leaves the house, because staying would mean giving up. It would mean continuing this gray, hopeless life. And this way, well, at least there would be some kind of story, even if it was short and scary. She arrives at City Hall promptly at 9. He's already there, standing by a column, talking on the phone. He doesn't smile when he sees her. He simply nods, pointing to a bench. "Wait!" The procedure takes 15 minutes. They are both silent. She trembles as she signs the papers. Her hand traces a clumsy squiggle. His signature is a sharp, confident line. No rings, no kiss, no photos. They walk out into the street as husband and wife. A black SUV with tinted windows waits by the sidewalk. "Get in," he says, opening the back door. She freezes. Last chance to run. Scream. Call the police. But she gets into the car silently. The door slams. He sits down next to the driver. The car moves smoothly. She looks out the window at the familiar street slipping away. She says goodbye to her old life. She doesn't know where they're taking her, but she made a choice. Out of fear, out of despair, out of a tiny, foolish hope that things could be different. The car pulls into the gates of a high fence. The house is huge, modern, made of glass and concrete. It resembles a bunker or a museum. Inside, it smells of expensive wood, leather, and emptiness. Minho leads her inside without turning around. Your rooms are on the second floor. The kitchen is there. Food is delivered. Don't leave the house without me. Don't touch the phone in my office. Don't ask questions. He says this as he climbs the stairs, as if he were reading out a safety instruction. Right here, he says, opening the door. It's an entire apartment within a house. A living room with sparse furniture, a bedroom with a large bed, a bathroom. Everything is clean, new, and impersonal, like a room in an expensive hotel where no one lives. They'll come tomorrow and bring you some clothes. Tell the woman who comes to clean what you need. Her name is Mrs. Kim. He stands in the doorway, examining her. His gaze glides over her figure, her face, her hair. But there's no interest in it. There's an assessment, as if he's checking to see if the cargo has been delivered correctly. Amber blurts out. She hadn't planned to ask, but the word just slips out. He lingers on her for a second. Because you're suitable, he repeats his phrase from the bar. And after a pause, he adds, and no one cares about you. He turns and leaves. His footsteps fade on the marble floors. Amber stands in the middle of a strange, vast room. His words hang in the air. And no one cares about you. There is no cruelty in this. There is a simple, terrible truth. He married her because she is no one. Because her disappearance will raise no questions. Because she does not matter. She's a ghost in his palace. Invisible. Under contract. She slowly approaches the window. It doesn't open. She sees a large, well-kept garden, a high fence, cells. This isn't a home. It's a beautiful prison. Days pass. Amber hardly sees Minho. He leaves early in the morning and returns late at night. Sometimes she hears his footsteps downstairs, his muffled voices. Mrs. KM comes, cleans, and prepares food. She barely speaks, only bows. The loneliness here is louder than in her old closet. There was street noise, neighbors. Here, there is silence. A deathly silence, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Amber begins exploring the house, cautiously, afraid of bumping into a forbidden door. She finds a library with books in Korean, a movie theater with 10 seats, an empty conference room. Everything is clean, everything is in place, and everything is dead. One day she goes downstairs, past the kitchen. There's a long hallway with several doors. One of them is ajar. It's dark inside. She fumbles for the light switch. The light flashes, and she freezes. It's a huge gym. It has everything you could imagine. A treadmill, an elliptical, dumbbells of all sizes, benches, racks, and wall-sized mirrors. The equipment looks expensive and new, but it's dust-free. It's used. Amber looks at her reflection in the mirror, at her large body in a loose dressing gown, at her round face with hopelessness in her eyes. She hates this reflection. She hates her weakness, her submissiveness. And then, looking at the dumbbells, she understands. Her eyes light up. This is her chance. Not for him, never for him, for herself. As long as he considers her a nobody, as long as he doesn't notice her, she can change. Right under his nose, in his own home, she will become strong. So strong that one day she will look him in the eyes and leave. Not run away like a frightened mouse, but leave, slamming the door. Leave with a new one. The solution comes instantly. Jian turns off the light and quietly closes the door. She now has a goal, and a place to achieve it. Amber waits until the middle of the night. 2 o'clock. The house is quiet. She puts on old sweatpants and a stretched-out t-shirt. Barefoot, she goes down to the basement. The hall is lit only by emergency lights. That's even better. In the dim light, her reflection in the mirror is less clear, less judgmental. She starts with the simplest. She decides to simply stand on the treadmill. She turns it on the lowest speed. 5 minutes of walking. Sweat runs down her back in rivulets. Her legs burn. She feels every extra kilo, every muscle that has never been used. The next day, her whole body aches, as if she'd been hit by a truck. She can barely get out of bed. But that night, she goes downstairs again. She adds another 5 minutes. She tries to do a few squats without weights. Her knees tremble. She falls onto the soft floor. Tears of shame and helplessness well up in her throat. She suppresses them. A week later, she tries to lift the smallest dumbbells, 2 kilograms each. Her arms shake as if she's in a fever. After the third attempt, a searing pain shoots through her muscles. She lowers the dumbbells, sits on the floor, and hugs her knees. And finally, she cries, quietly, silently, so no one will hear. Tears, salty and bitter, drip onto the rubber flooring. She cries from pain, from exhaustion, from hatred of her former self, who allowed all this to happen. But when the tears run out, she wipes her face with the hem of her t-shirt. She stands up, she picks up those pathetic tiny dumbbells again, and does another set. Because the pain now is the price. The price for her future self, for the Amber who one day won't be afraid, who will be strong. Every night is a battle with her own body, with laziness, with despair. But she doesn't give in, because in this dark room, in complete silence, for the first time in years, she feels in control of something in her life. A month passes. Amber can now last 20 minutes on the treadmill. She does lunges and wall push-ups. Her clothes fit a little looser. In the mirror, she sees not a change in her figure, but a change in her eyes. A stubborn, fierce spark has appeared in them. One night, she's more tired than usual. After a tough back workout, she sits down on a bench to rest for a minute. The room is warm, the silence oppressive. Her eyelids droop. She doesn't plan to sleep, but her exhausted body takes its toll. She wakes up to a sharp, icy chill. She opens her eyes. At first, she doesn't understand where she is. Then she sees the ceiling of the gym. She's lying on the floor, with an exercise mat underneath her, and then she feels someone's gaze. She slowly turns her head. Minho stands in the doorway, illuminated by the light from the hallway. He's not wearing a jacket. He's wearing a black t-shirt and sweatpants. His arms are crossed over his chest. He's looking at her sweaty, disheveled figure, at her sweat-soaked t-shirt, at the mat, at the small dumbbells lying nearby. He doesn't move. He doesn't say a word. Time stops. Amber's mind panics. It's over now. He's caught her. He'll be angry. He'll kick her out. Or worse. She invaded his space, used his things without asking. He hates it when his rules are broken. She freezes, waiting for the explosion, waiting for the cold order to get out. But there's no explosion. Minho simply stands and watches. His stony face is expressionless. Only in the very depths of his dark eyes does something flicker. Not anger, not mockery, something else. A lively, keen interest. As if for the first time he sees before him not a static object, but a process. As if he's discovered that the thing he bought can move on its own. He slowly, very slowly, looks away from her and looks around the room. He sees the water bottle, the towel she's carefully folded on the bench. Everything is according to the rules. Nothing is broken. Then his gaze returns to her again. She cannot move, frozen under the weight of that gaze. He takes one step forward, into the hall. His eyes meet hers. He opens his mouth. Amber holds her breath, preparing for the worst. "Go on," he says quietly. Just 2 words, without intonation. Then he turns and leaves. The footsteps fade away in the corridor. The door to the hall remains open. Amber lies on the floor for a long time, unable to move. Her heart is pounding as if it wants to burst out of her chest. Go on. What does that mean? Is this permission? Is this a trap? Is he going to watch? She sits up slowly, her body aching with fatigue, and now also with adrenaline. She looks at the open door into the dark corridor. Her secret is revealed. The game has changed. Now he knows, and she doesn't understand what will happen next. But one thing is certain, he said, keep going, and she will continue. Now not just for herself, but also out of spite. Out of spite for him, out of spite for the whole world that considered her weak. She will rise from this floor and become even stronger, so that she will never again feel this chilling fear before his silent gaze. Amber barely sleeps until morning. Every creak in the house makes her shudder. She waits for the door to her room to open, and for him to enter with his terms, his cold clarity. But nothing happens. The next morning, she's afraid to go down to the hall. It's a trap. He left the door open to see if she dares return. And if she does, then what will he do? By evening, curiosity overcomes fear. She carefully makes her way downstairs. She peers through the half-open door to the hall. Everything is in its place, but something has changed. Next to her old water bottle sits a whole crate of the same water. On the bench lies a stack of new workout clothes. Nothing flashy, nothing designer. Just some good quality dark leggings and a few technical t-shirts in various sizes. On top lies a pair of new sneakers, her size. Next to the dumbbells, there's now a small rack with towels, clean, soft ones. Amber slowly approaches and picks up one of the t-shirts. The fabric is thick, expensive to the touch. She looks at the water bottle, at the sneakers. This isn't a taunt. This is gear. It's a silent, clear message. I saw, I know. You can keep going. This is what you need. She feels no joy. She feels an icy shiver. His attention, even this practical and emotionless one, frightens her more than anger. Because it's incomprehensible. What's in it for him? Why is he wasting his time on this? She doesn't touch the new clothes. She puts on her old, stretched-out ones, but she grabs a new bottle of water and begins her workout. Every movement is now done with an eye on the door. She waits for him to appear again. She watches, but he doesn't come. Only when she finishes and heads upstairs does she notice. A simple fitness tracker is lying on a table in the hallway. Unconnected, new. She picks it up. It's a tool to count steps, heart rate, calories, so that her progress can be measured in numbers, so that everything is under control and under his control. She places the bracelet on her wrist. It's cold and light. It's not a gift. It's a mark and a silent endorsement of her secret, which is no longer a secret. He hasn't been back in the gym since, but his presence lingers. New things appear regularly, protein bars for a certain march, a weightlifting belt when she starts trying barbell exercises. It all happens quietly while she's away. His silent support is starting to feel like punishment to her. Every new thing is a reminder. He's watching. He knows how much time she spends down there. He sees her progress. He's aware of everything. What if this is some big game? What if he's raising her like an animal for slaughter, fattening her up, training her for some twisted purpose? Maybe he's making a bet with someone? Watch me. I'll make an athlete out of this fat girl. Or worse, preparing her for something terrible she's afraid to even think about. She's starting to notice changes in the house. A masseuse comes once a week. As per Mr. Minho's instructions, the cook now cooks specially for her. Lots of protein, vegetables, and complex carbohydrates. Meals are brought to her rooms or left in the refrigerator with her name on the container. His world, cold and calculating, begins to envelop her with invisible tendrils of care. And this care is more frightening than the former indifference, because behind it lies control, complete and absolute. Sometimes she catches his gaze over lunch, which they now rarely share in silence. He doesn't look at her face, but rather glances appraisingly at her shoulders and arms, like a coach looking at a protege, or like a master looking at property that's appreciating in value. Amber intensifies her training, not out of gratitude, but out of fear and anger. If this is a game, she won't be his docile toy. She'll become so powerful that she'll break the rules. Whatever he's planning. One evening, when she returns to her room from training, she sees a box on her bed, a simple cardboard one, without ribbon. She carefully opens it. Inside lies a dress. Not what she imagined. It's dark green, made of heavy silk, cut simply yet elegantly. The very dress she would have tried on in a store a year ago, and sadly hung back because it would have highlighted everything she wanted to hide. She picks it up. The fabric flows. She doesn't wear things like this. She has no reason to. There's no note in this box. Just a dress. A silent command. Try it on. She doesn't want to. But curiosity is stronger. She goes to the bathroom, looks in the large mirror, takes off her sweaty workout clothes, puts on a dress. It glides over her body. She zips it up on the side. It goes easily, all the way to the top. Amber takes a step back and looks in the mirror. She freezes. The dress fits perfectly. It hugs her changed figure without being tight. It accentuates her waist, which has become more noticeable, and her shoulders, which have become stronger. It doesn't hide her curves, but rather flaunts them, but as an asset, not a flaw. She doesn't recognize her reflection. It's not the frightened waitress from the bar. It's a different woman, strong, collected, with a fire in her eyes that was once just a smoldering ember. Minho appears reflected in the doorway. He stops and looks at her, not at the dress, at her in the dress. His face is inscrutable, but he looks at her for a long time, silently. Then his gaze meets hers in the mirror. Get off tomorrow evening, he says evenly. We're going to dinner. And he leaves without waiting for an answer. Amber stands motionless, still staring at her reflection, at the woman he sees, at the woman she is becoming. The dress isn't a gift. It's a test, and a pass into his world. She's just passed through, and she's not sure whether to be happy or scared. Amber is tense the entire next day. She doesn't go to practice. Instead, she takes a long bath and styles her hair. Ms. Kim brings her a box of low-heeled shoes and a small purse. Everything is sorted. By 7 o'clock, she's ready. She looks in the mirror again. The woman in green silk looks confident, but inside, a knot of fear is coiled. Minho is waiting for her downstairs in the hall. He's wearing a dark gray suit. He looks her up and down. He nods. Approvingly? Simply stating a fact? It's unclear. Let's go, he says. He doesn't offer her his hand. He doesn't touch her. They walk out to the car. He opens the door for her himself. The car starts moving smoothly. He's silent the entire ride, looking out the window. Amber looks at the city lights. She hasn't been in public for months. Everything seems too bright, too loud. The car stops not at a fancy restaurant, but at a small but expensive-looking Korean cafe. It's cozy, with subdued lighting. He comes out and opens the door for her. As she steps out, his hand briefly touches her elbow to help her balance in her high heels. The touch is quick, impersonal, but she feels the strength in his fingers. He leads her inside, and here begins her first real exit. The cafe is warm and smells of roasted sesame seeds and meat. Several tables are occupied, mostly by business people and couples. When they enter, the conversation doesn't completely die down, but several pairs of eyes turn toward them. Amber feels it on her skin, like a physical touch. At first, everyone looks at Minho. Do they recognize him? Are they afraid? Do they simply see strength in him? Then their gazes slide to her. She sees a whole gamut in these glances. Surprise, curiosity. For men, it's a reassessment. They see not just a plus-size girl, but a woman with presence, in an expensive dress, next to a man like Minho. Some women get a quick, professional glance, assessing the dress, the handbag, the shoes, and then envy. Not an angry one, but a quiet one. Envy of her confidence, of the way she holds herself around him. The waiter, a young Korean, practically runs towards them, bowing low. "Mr. Minho, your table is ready." They're led to a somewhat secluded area, but not completely hidden. Minho helps her sit up. This gesture is also noticed. Amber sits up, trying to keep her back straight. She feels the dress clinging to her. She doesn't avert her eyes. She looks around. She sees several men at the next table quickly look away when she meets their eyes. A strange mixture of fear and triumph seethes inside her. All these months of pain, sweat, tears, they weren't in vain. She's no longer invisible. She's here, and they see her. Minho orders food without asking her, but he orders what she likes, what's on her current menu. He's noticed that too. While they wait for the food, he says little, but he doesn't ignore her. He looks at her across the table. His gaze is still scrutinizing, but there's something new in it now. Satisfaction? As if he's admiring the results of a job well done. Amber finds herself liking that look, and that's what scares her most, because she's beginning to understand. His approval has become important to her, and that's a dangerous trap. They return home late. The evening passed quietly, almost peacefully. No incidents, only glances and quiet whispers behind their backs. Amber feels drained from the tension. She goes to her room, takes off her dress, and hangs it carefully. A shower washes away the hairspray and the remnants of the day. She's almost asleep when she hears a sound. A voice. His voice. He's on the phone. He's not in his office, but, judging by the sound, in the hallway on the first floor. His voice is muffled from below, but a few words break through. She freezes, listening. Not on purpose. She just can't switch off. He speaks Korean sharply, abruptly, then a pause, then his voice again, and among the unfamiliar words, she suddenly clearly hears English, inserted into the Korean phrase, like a name or a code word. Tell her about that girl? An icy wave washes over Amber from head to toe. She freezes in bed, holding her breath. That girl. Which girl? His voice sounds cold, even contemptuous. Then he says something else and hangs up. Silence reigns in the house again. But for Amber, this silence is now deafening, filled with terror. Now all the pieces of the puzzle in her head fit together to form a terrible, clear picture. His sudden interest, the gifts, the training, the concern for her nutrition, the social outings. None of this was for her. He has another. That girl. The real one. The one he possibly loves, or who is important for business. And Amber. Amber is a cover, a decoration, or part of some complex scheme. He's preparing her, making her presentable, so he can parade her around as his legal wife, while his real woman remains in the shadows. Or maybe he's simply grooming Amber to give way to that one girl when the time comes. Or is he waiting for Amber to become attractive enough so he can profitably hand her over to someone to pay off a debt as part of a deal? His phrase, "Should I tell her about that girl?" now echoes constantly in her head. He'd discussed with someone whether to reveal the truth to her, and judging by his tone, he'd decided not to. For now, all his kindness, his silent support, it was a lie, a crude, cynical manipulation. He raised her like an animal for show, or for sale. Fear gives way to a searing, all-consuming sense of betrayal. She'd been so stupid, she'd almost begun to trust him. almost begun to value his attention. She'd allowed his world to consume her. The next night, Amber descends into the hall. But this is no longer an escape. It's a battlefield. She doesn't put on new, comfortable clothes. She puts on her oldest, most torn t-shirt. She approaches the barbell. She looks at the iron plates. She used to be afraid of them. Now they seem like allies. She lifts weights she once considered impossible. Her arms burn with the effort. Her back screams in pain, but she no longer cries. Fury burns inside her. Fury at him, at his lies, at his cold calculations, at this entire world where people are pawns. Fury at herself for her past weakness, for almost believing this fairy tale. Every repetition is a blow to his plans. Every kilogram lifted is a kilogram of strength she will take from him and keep for herself. She will grow stronger not for him, not to be his pretty doll, but to break his game, so that when he finally decides to tell her about that girl, she will be ready, so that she can look him in the eye and say no, so that she can leave and survive alone, so that he will regret ever taking her into his damned home. She trains until she's exhausted, until dark circles appear before her eyes. Sweat pours off her in streams, mixing with the angry tears she no longer allows herself to shed. She falls to the floor, breathing heavily, her muscles trembling from the strain. She rises. She looks in the mirror at her red face, distorted by effort, at her body, which is becoming a weapon. "Okay, Minho," she whispers to her reflection, filled with a new, cold determination. "Play your games. Raise me. I will be the strongest, most dangerous thing you've ever created. And the first one this weapon will turn on will be you." Amber leaves the gym at dawn. She can barely stand. Every muscle protests. She sees a large blue-purple bruise on the inside of her forearm, the result of an unfortunate contact with the barbell. She slowly climbs the stairs, holding onto the railing. The light is on in the hallway on the first floor. Minho is standing by the large window, drinking coffee. He's already dressed in a dark suit, ready to go out. He turns his head when he hears her footsteps. His gaze glides over her tired face, her workout clothes, and stops at the bruise. Amber tries to walk past him without looking at him, but he takes a step, not completely blocking her path, but drawing her attention. "What is this?" His voice is quiet. She doesn't answer, trying to hide her hand behind her back. He acts quickly. His hand reaches out, and his fingers wrap around her wrist. His touch is firm, but not rough. He lifts her hand to examine the bruise in the light. Amber freezes. He never touched her without a reason. Without a reason. Now he holds her hand, his thumb resting right on the edge of the bruise. His skin is warm, and her hand is cold from exhaustion. He studies the bruise. His face doesn't show concern or anger. He views it as a fact, as data. His eyes narrow. "You're going too fast," he says finally, still quietly. "You can't. You'll break." He doesn't ask how she got the bruise. He knows. He lets go of her wrist. His fingers leave a light, warm sensation on her skin. "Rest today. No weights. Just stretching if you want," he says. It's not a request. It's an order, but an order that somehow sounds concerned, or simply concerned about the state of his property. He looks away, takes a sip of coffee. The conversation is over. Amber stands still, rubbing her wrist where his fingers had just been. His words, "You'll break," echo in her head. She doesn't understand. If he doesn't need her, if he has that girl, why is he worried about her breaking? Wouldn't that be convenient for his plans? She says nothing. She walks past him upstairs, feeling his gaze on her back. This simple contact confused her thoughts even more. A few days pass. Minho invites her to the same cafe again. This time, he says it in advance. "We need to be seen again," he says. "We." The word grates on her ear. Amber agrees. Now she has her own plan. She wants to see how he behaves. She wants to see that girl or traces of her. She chooses a different dress, black, simple. She looks stern and serious in it. The evening repeats itself. The same glances, the same waiter, the same table. Amber watches his every move. He's calm, but his eyes constantly scan the room. He's wary. And then, as they wait for their order, a man approaches their table. He's well-dressed and smiling, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. Amber has never seen him before. The man leans toward Minho and quickly whispers something in his ear. Minho's face changes instantly. It doesn't contort with anger. It just turns pale, turns cold as marble. Every muscle in his face tenses. He nods to the stranger without even looking at him. The stranger quickly leaves. Minho sits motionless for a few seconds. His gaze is fixed on the tablecloth, but he doesn't see it. He sees something else, something dangerous. Amber feels a chill run down her spine. Something has happened, something serious. Minho slowly looks up at Amber. There's no warmth in his gaze, only concentration and icy determination. There's a problem, he says evenly. We need to. He doesn't finish. His phone, lying on the table, starts vibrating. An unfamiliar number flashes on the screen. Minho looks at the phone, then back at Amber. He picks it up and holds it to his ear. He doesn't say hello. He just listens. Amber sees his jaw clench, the tendons in his neck tense. His eyes, fixed on hers, darken. Pure, uncontrollable rage flares in them, the rage he always hid so carefully. He listens for a few more seconds. Then his lips stretch into a silent, predatory grin. He doesn't shout. He speaks into the phone quietly, but in such a way that each word sounds like a knife thrust. My wife, he pauses, his gaze boring into Amber, has nothing to do with this. Your mistakes are your problem. If you touch a hair, he doesn't finish the threat. He simply hangs up. He places the phone on the table. His hand trembles slightly. He takes a deep breath, trying to compose himself, but the anger still burns in his eyes. Amber sits, holding her breath. My wife. He said it as if he were protecting something valuable. But from what? Who called? What mistakes? Her own theory about the other girl is crumbling. That call, his reaction. It was about her, about them. Was someone threatening her? Because of his affairs? Minho looks at her, the anger slowly fading from his face, replaced by a tired, cold clarity. They were competitors, he says bluntly. They want to get me. They saw us here last time. They didn't like how I looked. Confident. Happy. They want to create problems for me. He pauses, collecting his thoughts. Amber is silent, waiting. They didn't recognize you, he continues, and there's something like a bitter smile in his voice. They saw the photos, from the wedding. You were wearing a different dress, with a different expression on your face. You were different. They thought it was a different woman. He looks her straight in the eyes. They think I'm cheating on you, that I went out with a mistress, while my real, full wife sits at home. They want to tell my wife, that is, Ease, as they think your ex, about your betrayal. So you'll cause a scandal. So you'll weaken me. That's their plan. Amber listens, her brain refusing to comprehend. The words reach her slowly. They didn't recognize you. They think it's another woman. I'm cheating on you. Her entire world, built on suspicion and pain, crumbled in an instant. There was no other girl. There was no plan to sell her or replace her. His silent support, his care. Was it real? Or simply the pragmatism of a man who saw potential and decided to exploit it? But even that seems different now. Shock paralyzes her. She can't move. Amber's head at breakneck speed. All her fears, her rage at the betrayal, all of it was built on sand, on misunderstandings, on her own insecurities and fears. The competitors, those dangerous people, looked at her and didn't see the Amber who married Minho. They saw a different woman, so different that they decided she was someone new. It's both insulting and incredible. It's a testament to everything she's been through, her work, her pain, her tears. They've changed her so much that even her enemies couldn't recognize her. She looks at Minho. He's not lying. She can see it in his face. He's telling the harsh, absurd truth. Their sham marriage, her transformation, all of it has led to this absurd situation where they've become targets because of her success. The feeling of emptiness gives way to a strange, cold calm. The anger is still there, but now it's directed not at him, but at those who deemed her so insignificant that they couldn't recognize her, who decided she was just a miserable, fat wife, easily deceived and exploited. Something snaps inside her. A turning point, a point of no return. She's no longer a victim of his game. She's become an unexpected player in a higher-level game, a player everyone underestimated, including, perhaps, herself. Minho watches her. He sees her expression change, from shock to confusion, and then to the same steely determination he saw in the hall. So what now? Amber asks. Her voice is quiet but firm, not trembling. Minho leans forward across the table. Now we're playing their game, but by our rules. They need the wife to know about the cheating. Fine, let her know. He pauses. I need your help. Tomorrow we come here again. You put on that very first dress, the one you wore when you married me. You come here as that Amber. We sit at the same table, and we give them a show. We show everyone that you are my wife, and that everything is fine between us, that their attempt to split us failed because they are blind idiots. He says this without emotion, as if laying out an operational plan. This will be a message, a powerful message, to them and everyone else. Are you ready? He's not asking. He's asking if she's ready. He's offering her an ally, not a subordinate, not a pawn, but an active participant. Amber looks at him. She's not thinking about him. She's thinking about them, about those who dared to underestimate her, who decided she could be used as a weapon against Minho without even bothering to look at her properly. She agrees. Not for him, not out of gratitude or sudden affection, but for herself, to prove to them, to prove to everyone, including her former self, what she's capable of, to turn their plan into her weapon. "I'm ready," she says, and there's a hint of steel in her voice. The next morning, Amber stands in front of her closet. She takes out that same blue dress. Simple, cheap, a little worn. The dress that made her feel invisible. The dress she wore when she got married at the behest of a stranger. She puts it on. The fabric sags on her. The dress is now too big in the shoulders, too loose at the waist. It hangs on her new, firmer figure like a hanger. She zips it up, and it slides easily. Not because the dress has stretched, but because she has shrunk. She goes to a large mirror and looks. A ghost stands before her. A ghost of her past. A familiar face, familiar golden hair. But this face looks at her with different eyes. There is no longer the former submission and fear in these eyes. There is steel in them, confidence, knowledge. She sees the contrast, the old dull dress, and the new strong body inside it. The timid pose dictated by the style and the straight, proud posture dictated by her will. It's a transformation, but not into someone else, but into your true self. That girl from the bar needed to hide. This woman in the mirror doesn't need to hide. Even in this sack dress, she looks not like a victim, but a strategist. A woman who puts on a mask to win the battle. She slowly turns in front of the mirror. She feels no shame. She feels power, the power of paradox. The more she resembles the old Amber on the outside, the more her inner strength will shock those who think they understand everything. She picks up a simple handbag. She takes a last look in the mirror. There's no smile, only cold, focused determination. She's ready to take the stage and play her best role yet, the role of herself, past and present at the same time. Minho is waiting for her downstairs. He sees her in an old dress. His gaze glides over the loose fabric, rests on her face. He doesn't comment. He simply nods, briefly, approvingly. He understands the idea. The car takes them to the cafe again. This time, Amber isn't nervous. She sits up straight, her hands resting calmly in her lap. She repeats in her mind, she is the same girl, and she is completely different. When they enter, the same thing happens as before. Stares. But this time, those stares linger. First, people see Minho, then they see her, and confusion appears on their faces. Will they recognize her? Or won't they? Amber sees the waiter, already accustomed to them, pause for a second with the menu in his hands. His eyes widen. He looks at her dress, then at her face, then at the dress again. They are led to the same table. Whispers follow them. Amber catches snatches. Is this the same one? It can't be. That one was, look at her posture. It's her. But how? Minho and his mysterious wife. She sits down. Her movements are smooth, confident. She doesn't slouch, doesn't try to hide. She places her purse on the chair next to her and looks around. Her gaze meets a couple of men at the next table, the same ones who quickly looked away last time. This time, their eyes are fixed. Their gaze reflects not only surprise, but also reassessment and respect, mixed with fear. Minho orders. He does so without taking his eyes off her. There's something new in his gaze, not just satisfaction, but a quiet, icy triumph. He sees the effect. He sees how their performance works. People don't see a pathetic wife being cheated on. They see a woman who has been transformed, who sits next to Minho not as an adornment, but as an equal, or, at the very least, as someone who has earned her place at his side. The old dress no longer looks like a sign of poverty, but like a bold challenge, as if she were saying, yes, this is me, and I can wear whatever I want, because my strength isn't in my clothes. The evening passes quietly, but the atmosphere in the cafe is charged. Everyone understands they have witnessed some silent but important announcement. Minho and Amber's message has been delivered. Later that night, another meeting takes place in one of the city's closed clubs. The man who whispered in Minho's ear at the cafe stands before his boss. The boss is an older man with graying temples and cold eyes. He listens silently to the report. They were there again, the subordinate says, nervously fiddling with the hem of his jacket. She was with him, but in a different dress. The same one, the one from the wedding photos. The boss slowly looks up at him. And, it was her, the same woman, but not the same. She changed, and everyone saw it. Everyone in that cafe. Minho, he was beaming, not smiling, no, but he was satisfied. He made us look like idiots. There's a photograph on the desk in front of the boss, a wedding photo from the mayor's office. It's of Minho and Amber, he cold and distant, she frightened, in that same blue dress. Next to it lies another, blurry one, taken with a hidden camera in the cafe last time. Amber in green, silk, confident, beautiful. The boss looks at both photos. His face begins to flush with suppressed rage. He takes the first photo, the one from the wedding, and slowly, very slowly, tears it in half, right across Amber's face. Blind, he hisses. We were blind. We looked for weakness. And he turned it into strength. He exploited our blindness. He forced us to give him our own triumph. He stands up and throws the fragments of the photograph aside. Our plan. It didn't just fail. It worked for him. Now everyone sees not his wife the burden, but his wife the mystery. His wife, who is capable of such a transformation. It gives him points, respect. It makes him stronger. A heavy silence hangs in the room. The subordinate is afraid to move. The failure wasn't just tactical. It was psychological. Minho defeated them without landing a single blow. He won by exploiting their own arrogance and inattention. This defeat is more bitter than any lost battle. At home, in the big, cold house, the atmosphere is different. When they return, there's an awkwardness between them. The task is done. The performance is over. What now? Amber goes into the kitchen to get some water. Minho follows her. He stands in the doorway, watching her drink. Today was good, he says finally, his voice sounding casual. Amber puts down her glass. She turns to him. Months of silence, fear, suspicion, hard work, all of it leading her to the question that has been burning inside her since the very beginning. Minho, she says quietly, looking him straight in the eyes. Was there a bet? He freezes. His face, usually so expressionless, goes completely blank for a moment, like a mask. He doesn't blink. He just stares at her. The silence lasts for several seconds. It seems like an eternity. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He doesn't say, "What are you talking about?" He's simply silent. And in that silence lies an entire universe. Then he slowly looks away. He looks past her, out the dark window. It doesn't matter, he says finally. His voice is low, without intonation, and he turns and leaves. His footsteps fade into the hallway. Amber is left standing alone in the kitchen. His answer isn't an answer. It's an evasion. But in his evasion, she reads the truth. If there had been no bet, he would have simply said no, denied it. But he said, "It doesn't matter," which means there was a bet. But now, for him, it no longer meant anything. Or maybe it meant something different all along? She doesn't get an answer, but she gets something more. Confirmation that the rules of the game have changed. For both of them. The next day, afternoon, Amber goes down to the gym. She's still processing yesterday's conversation. She doesn't know what to feel, but her body demands movement. Habit takes over. She starts warming up on the treadmill. Suddenly, the door opens. Minho enters. He's wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, just like the night he caught her sleeping. But this time, his intentions are clear. He's come to work out. He silently begins his exercises on the other side of the room. He doesn't look at her. He's focused on himself. His training isn't just about maintaining his form. It's a disciplined, rigorous ritual. Every movement is powerful, precise, and effortless. He lifts weights so heavy that Amber catches her breath just watching. She continues her workout, trying to ignore him. But she feels his presence. The room that was her personal sanctuary is now filled with his energy. She approaches the barbell, preparing for the deadlift. She grabs the bar, checks her leg position, and suddenly she feels him standing right behind her. "Stop," his voice says right next to her ear. She flinches. He doesn't touch her. He walks around her and stands to the side. "You're back. You're rounding it at the top. You'll break," he says in the same tone he used about the bruise. "Watch." He stands in front of the mirror, picks up a lighter barbell, and demonstrates the movement slowly, with exaggerated precision. "Keep your back like a board. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Pull with your legs and hips, not your back. Feel it here." He points to his lower back. Then he steps away. "Try it." Amber, a little stunned, repeats the movement. He watches. "Better," he states, "but still not perfect." Again, he corrects her a few more times. Not with words, but with gestures. A light touch of his finger to her shoulder blade to indicate where she needs to tense up. His touches are quick, impersonal, like a coach's, but they are effective. For the first time, their interaction in the room isn't covert observation or silent support. It's a partnership. He shares his knowledge. He teaches her to be stronger, not for show, but for real. When she finishes the approach, exhaling, he nods. Good. Now remember this feeling. He returns to his scales, but the barrier between them has been broken. They are no longer observer and subject. They are two people in the same space, engaged in the same task, and there is a strange, silent equality in this. A few days later, Minho says at breakfast, "Dress casually, it's comfortable. We're leaving in an hour." Amber doesn't ask where. She's used to not asking. But now it's not out of fear, but out of understanding. He'll tell her if he needs to. She puts on dark jeans, a simple t-shirt, sneakers, and a windbreaker. He's dressed similarly. They exit not through the main entrance, but through a side door in the garage. Waiting for them isn't an armored SUV, but a regular gray sedan. "Today you watch," he says as they head out onto the city streets. "And you learn." He starts pointing at things. At first it seems strange. "See that gray 3-car van in the back? It's been following us since we came out of the alley." The man in the cap is at the newsstand. He spends too much time looking at the window display, not the newspapers. He's an observer. Don't look straight ahead. Use your peripheral vision. Reflections in the windows. He leads her along busy streets, then down quiet alleys. He shows her how to vary her walking pace, how to suddenly stop at a shop window to check who else has stopped. He teaches her to read the street like a text, where every movement, every glance, is a letter. "This is my life," he says one day as they sit in a small park, pretending to feed pigeons. A constant game of cat and mouse. Now it can be a part of your life, if you want it to be. He doesn't press. He simply states a fact. He shares his reality with her, the most intimate, the most dangerous part of his life. He lets her in on a shared secret, the secret of constant danger, vigilance, survival. Amber listens, absorbs. She feels not fear, but a sharp, living excitement. This knowledge makes her stronger. This knowledge is another kind of power, and he trusts her with this knowledge. One evening, their business outing drags on. Dusk thickens. They walk along the deserted embankment. Minho is calm, but his eyes are constantly moving. He suddenly slows his pace. His hand touches her elbow discreetly. A signal. "Don't turn around. There are 2 behind you. Speed up," he says quietly. They quicken their pace. Amber feels her heart begin to beat faster. She can't see, but she senses a presence behind her. Their steps quicken too. Minho directs her toward a better-lit street. But there, around the corner, 2 more emerge, blocking the way. Everything happens quickly. Minho abruptly pushes Amber aside, behind a parked van, and turns to face the approaching men. A short, heavy baton appears in his hand, which Amber didn't even notice. A fight breaks out. Minho moves like a panther. Quick, efficient, without wasted movement. But there are 4 of them. Amber presses herself against the cold metal of the van, panic clenching her throat. She sees one of the attackers, whom Minho had thrown aside, rise and reach for something in his belt. A knife? A stick? Instinct works faster than thought. Months of training, rage, fear, all merge into a single impulse. She doesn't think. She acts. She takes 2 quick steps, picks up an empty soda can from the ground, and, without stopping, throws it with all the force generated by her shoulders and back. The can misses his head. It clangs into the hand of the man who was reaching for his gun. He cries out in surprise and pain, dropping the object. It turned out to be a stun gun. For a split second, his attention shifts to her. That moment is enough for Minho. He knocks the man out with one precise blow, and then, taking advantage of the other's confusion, he abruptly retreats, grabs Amber's hand, and drags her into the nearest dark passage between the buildings. They run without looking back. A few minutes later, they emerge onto a busy street, lost in the crowd. They return home in a taxi, silent. Only their heavy breathing betrays the tension they've been through. At home, in the hallway, Minho stops. He turns to face her. His hair is disheveled. The skin on his knuckles is raw. He looks at her, not as a woman who needed to be protected, but as someone who was there in battle. His gaze studies her face, her hands. She, too, is breathing rapidly, but stands up straight. There is no hysteria in her eyes. There is adrenaline and understanding of what just happened. "You threw the can," he says. Not a question, a statement. She nods. Her throat is dry. She can't speak. He comes closer. His eyes are dark, serious. "It was right," he says. His voice is low, without its usual coldness. There's something rough, real in it. "You didn't freeze. You didn't scream. You reacted. You distracted him. It gave me time." He pauses, still looking at her. Then he says words she's never heard from him, nor expected. "You are strong, Amber. It's not a compliment. It's an acknowledgement. an acknowledgement of a fact, an acknowledgement of an equal. He sees her not as a project, not as an object for training, but as a person, a strong person who can be useful in his world not only as a symbol, but also as an active character. These two words contain all the value she has earned through her work, her pain, her actions today. She is no longer the right girl because of a bet. She is strong, and he sees it. A few days later, Minho receives information. The man Amber threw the can at was no ordinary mercenary. He was the younger brother of one of the enemy faction's minor leaders, a guy named Jin, newly drawn into the business, inexperienced, but ambitious. Minho is discussing this with his men in his office. The door is ajar. Amber, passing by, overhears snatches of it. She stops, not out of gossip-mongering curiosity, but because she senses this concerns her too. Jin thinks his brother was set up, one of the men says. That it was a trap. He's furious with his own people. He says his brother was used as cannon fodder. Amber freezes. She remembers the guy's face in the streetlight, young, contorted with pain and anger as the can hit his hand. She knocks quietly on the office door and enters. Everyone falls silent, looking at her. Minho doesn't throw her out. He waits. I saw him, Amber says calmly. He looked different from them. He was scared, angry but confused. He looked at the others, as if waiting for a command on what to do next. She pauses, collecting her thoughts. Minho stares at her, unblinking. Maybe he doesn't like what he's doing. Maybe he was forced into it. Or maybe he thought it would be easy. And now his brother's been hurt, and he blames his superiors. She's not proposing a plan. She's simply sharing an observation, but there's logic to her words. Minho nods slowly, a familiar, cold, calculating glimmer in his eyes. A rift, he says quietly. We can exploit that rift. If Jin feels betrayed, we can offer him another side. He gives orders, not about violence, about observation, about precise, discreet contact, about a proposal. Later, Amber learns that contact has been made, that Jin, driven by resentment for his brother and disappointment in his own, has agreed to talk. He hasn't yet sided with Minho, but he's broken and looking for a way out, and the door has been opened for him thanks to her simple, human observation, which his men, preoccupied with strategy, have missed. She didn't just save the day in the alley, she provided the key to weakening the enemy from within, and Minho realized it. Amber lies awake at night, reflecting on the last few weeks. The bet, if there was one, the training, the outings, the attack, her reaction. Watching Jin, she's beginning to understand her new role. She's no longer a burden he took on for money. She's not just a stake in a game that's already over or lost its meaning. She became an asset. Her transformation made him stronger in the eyes of others. Her presence in the cafe, her new image, was a weapon in the information war. Her physical strength and composure in the alley proved she was no weak link. Her observation skills gave him a tactical advantage. He invests in her not out of guilt or some strange whim. He invests because he sees a return. She repays the investment with interest. She has become his ally, not an equal in power or experience, but valuable, irreplaceable in her own way. He shares his knowledge, his reality, with her because she's proven she can withstand it and use it. He respects her strength, and he uses her mind. This isn't love. This isn't romance. This is a business partnership of the highest, most dangerous kind. And in this partnership, she wields real power because her value depends on her strength, her intelligence, her loyalty. She's no longer a prisoner in a gilded cage. She's become a member of a team, a dangerous criminal team, but a team nonetheless. And she has a voice, and that voice has been heard. One day, when Amber returns from a short solo walk in the nearby park, Minho now allows her to do this under a distant supervision. An elderly woman sits down on a bench next to her. She's feeding pigeons. It's a beautiful day, the woman says in English with a slight accent. Amber smiles politely, but her internal radar, tuned by Minho, twitches slightly. The woman is too ordinary and too calm here, next to her. It must be hard for you, the woman suddenly says, not looking at her, continuing to throw crumbs, living in such a tense environment, always on guard. Amber slowly turns her head towards her. What are you talking about? About freedom, my dear. The woman finally looks at her. Her eyes are intelligent, insightful. I have a proposition for you, from people who appreciate your new qualities, but who don't like who you're associated with. The woman takes an envelope from her bag. She places it on the bench between them. This is enough money to start a new life. Anywhere. Away from all this. A new passport, tickets, a safe house, everything you need, she says quietly but clearly. You just need to leave. Just disappear. Today. Now. Our man is waiting by that fountain over there. Amber looks at the envelope. It's thick. Inside, probably tens of thousands in cash. And a promise of complete freedom. From Minho. From danger. From this complicated, confusing life. She could up and leave. Start over. Strong. Rich. Free. The temptation is real. It burns. She remembers her fear, her rage, her suspicions. It would all be so simple. Amber looks at the envelope. Then she looks up at the woman. At her calm, confident face. The face of an envoy from another world who wants to buy her, or ruin Minho's plans by taking his most unexpected asset. She doesn't think for long. The answer comes of its own accord, clear and cold. She doesn't take the envelope. She pushes it away from her and back toward the woman. No, she says simply. The woman blinks, surprised. Darling, think about it. This is your chance. You deserve a normal life. No, Amber repeats. Her voice is firm. I gave my word. I'm staying. She says this and knows it's true, but not the whole truth. She stays not only because of the word she gave at City Hall on the day of her strange wedding, and not because of a sudden love or affection for Minho. She stays because here, in this dangerous, complex reality, she has found herself. The self she never was. Strong, respected, valuable. The one whose opinion carries weight. The one who can protect herself and influence the course of events. Taking the money and running away would mean going back to the beginning, being alone, hiding, being strong, but not using that strength, being free, but from what? From the one place where she finally found her place. She stands up. Tell your people that I'm not selling out, and that their attempt is weakness. They're afraid of what we've become together. She turns and leaves, not toward the fountain where the stranger waits, but back to Minho's house, to her new life. The one she's built herself, no matter how strange and dangerous its foundation. She made a choice, not out of fear, not under duress, but consciously, as a strong person, as an ally, as someone who has found her value and is not going to trade it for easy, but empty freedom. The game continues, and she is in it, voluntarily. They think they're targeting the weakest link. Amber becomes their target. Not Minho and his army of bodyguards, but his wife, the very one they once deemed insignificant. The plan is simple. They'll be watching her new habits, her walks in the park. They know Minho allows her a little freedom, but the supervision is less strict now. They're waiting for the right moment. The moment comes when she enters a small boutique to look at bags. She's alone inside. The saleswoman is in the back room. Two men enter the store, seemingly just customers. The door closes quietly behind them, and a closed sign appears on the handle. Amber senses something is wrong immediately. She turns to leave, but her path is blocked by a third man emerging from behind the clothing rack. Don't make noise, Mrs. Minho, one of them says, smiling. We just want to talk. Our boss invites you for tea. She sizes them up. Three of them, large, self-assured. They look at her with ill-concealed disdain. They see a well-dressed woman before them, the boss's new wife. They think she'll be scared, cry. It doesn't occur to them that this woman has spent months lifting iron, learning to read the streets, and has already thrown a metal can in an attacker's face. I'll decline the invitation, she says calmly, her hand moving quietly to her purse, where she holds not only her phone, but also the small canister of gas Minho gave her after the incident in the alley. I'm afraid it's not a matter of choice, the man says and takes a step forward. Amber takes action. She doesn't try to scream. Instead, she abruptly throws her heavy purse right into the face of the nearest one. He instinctively recoils. At that moment, she yanks out the canister and sprays the other one, aiming for his eyes. There's a commotion, screams. A third man grabs her arms from behind. His grip is strong, but not professional. She remembers the trick Minho showed her in the gym for breaking free from such a grip. She doesn't think. Her body remembers on its own. She slams her heel into his shin, bending at the same time and lunging forward and downward, twisting his arms. He, unprepared, loses his balance, and his grip weakens. She breaks free. But there are three of them. The first, the one hit by the bag, has already come to. The second, with irritation in his eyes from the gas, is growling with rage. They surround her. She understands she can't win in an open confrontation, but she can stall for time, make as much noise as possible. She knocks over a clothes rack and grabs a metal hanger from the counter. Crazy! One of them hisses and lunges at her. This is exactly what she was waiting for. She steps back, trips over scattered clothes, and falls backwards. To them, it looks like defeat. They loom over her, but the fall is part of the plan. Lying down, she slams a coat hanger into the nearest man's knee. He screams in pain. The second one bends down to grab her. And at that moment, the store's alarm goes off. A loud, piercing wail fills the space. Amber managed to kick the glass display case near the floor as she fell. Not hard, but enough to trigger the alarm. Panic appears on the men's faces. Outside, they can already hear screams, the sound of a car approaching at high speed. It's not the police. Too fast. It's Minho's men. His system has worked. Her tracker watch, which he forced her to wear, beeped as her heart rate spiked during the struggle. The men rush about. They realize they've failed at the simplest task. They abandon it and try to escape through the back exit. But it's too late. The door is kicked down. Minho's men burst in. Amber lies on the floor among scattered clothes and shards of glass, breathing heavily. She's uninjured, but adrenaline is making her shake. She looks at the people who entered. They look at her, at the two attackers writhing in pain, at the chaos in the store. Their faces don't just show readiness for action, they show respect. They bring her home. Minho is already there. He stands in the hall when she enters, accompanied by two of his men. His face is a stone mask, but his eyes burn with a cold, deadly fire. He looks first at her, checking that she is safe, then at his men. They begin reporting, dryly, factually, what she did, how she resisted, how she raised the alarm. Minho listens without interrupting. When the report ends, he slowly approaches Amber. He doesn't hug her. He doesn't try to comfort her. He looks into her eyes. "Tell me," he says in one word, and she tells it. Simply, without emotion, how they came in, what they said, how she threw the bag, how she used the spray, how she used the counter grab, how she fell on purpose to buy time and distance, how she hit them with the coat hanger and broke the glass. She speaks, and he listens. His gaze never leaves her face. When she finishes, something changes in his eyes. The anger slowly recedes, giving way to something deep, almost unbelievable. He turns to his men. "Did you hear?" His voice is quiet, but cuts like a blade. "They kidnapped her. They thought they were taking a rabbit, but they took..." He pauses, looking at Amber again. "A lioness." He gives orders. Harsh, swift, about their response, about the final neutralization of this group of enemies. He speaks of revenge, not hysterical, but calculated, like surgery. When the people leave, he and Amber are left alone in the large hall. "You could have died," he says, not as a reproach, as a statement of fact. "I knew," she replies. "That's why I acted." He nods slowly. "You didn't expect to be rescued. You created your own chance. You saved yourself. My people only picked you up in the end." There's no frustration in his voice. There's recognition of a higher order. She wasn't a passive victim who needed rescuing. She was a fighter on the battlefield, holding out until reinforcements arrived. He comes closer. His hand rises, and he touches her shoulder for a second, where the fabric of her jacket has been torn in the struggle. His touch is light, almost weightless. "Go and rest. It's over." With them, for sure. She goes up to her room, but not to cry or tremble with fear. She walks, feeling a strange, icy rage and satisfaction. They thought she was still that girl. They were wrong. They paid dearly for their mistake, and she proved it not only to them, but to herself and to Minho once and for all. Minho's response was swift and devastating. The group of enemies who dared to touch her ceased to exist. The city now knows. Touching Minho's wife is not the way to get to him. It is certain death, because this wife is not a weakness. She is part of his strength. One evening he comes to her room. He doesn't knock. He simply opens the door. He is dressed simply, in dark trousers and an open-collared shirt. "Let's go," he says. He doesn't take her outside, or to a cafe. He takes her up a narrow staircase to the attic, and from there, through a hatch onto the flat roof of the house. The night is clear. The city lies below, like a sea of lights. Up here, it's quiet. Only the distant hum of the metropolis. He approaches the edge of the parapet and looks down. She stands nearby. "I once thought marriage was a deal. A stupid one," he says quietly, not looking at her. "A way to prove something. To win, or lose with the least amount of losses." He turns to face her, his face illuminated by the neon lights from the signs below. "I was wrong." They stand in silence. He doesn't say sorry. He doesn't say, "I love you." Those words aren't for them. They're from a different vocabulary. "It was a bet," he finally exhales. The confession bursts out of him like something heavy and unnecessary. "For 5 million. Marry the first one who comes along, and hold out for a year. You came along." Amber listens. She already knew it. But hearing it from him is something else entirely. I thought this would be a year in prison for both of us. You're my burden. I'm your supervisor. But you, he looks at her, and in his eyes, she sees more than just respect. She sees amazement, almost admiration. You broke everything. You entered my world and didn't break. You changed it, changed the rules. You became, he searches for the word, essential. Not a bet wife, but a partner. Someone who stands here, next to me, on an equal footing. He says this not as a compliment, but as the most important report of his life, as a reevaluation of all values. Amber looks at the city, then at him. What will happen when the year is over? She asks, not out of fear, out of calm curiosity. Minho looks at her. The corners of his lips lift slightly. It's not a smile. It's the shadow of something that could be won. The year doesn't matter anymore. The bet is lost, or won. I don't remember anymore. And I don't care. He takes a step closer. Now there are centimeters between them. The game is different now. More difficult. More dangerous. And in this game, I need you. By my side. If you want me to. He doesn't ask. He offers. As an equal to an equal, he invites her to stay, not by contract, not out of fear, but by choice, to become part of his world, his right hand, his most trusted confidant, his wife, truly, in their own twisted sense of the word. Amber looks out at the sea of lights below. She thinks of the fear in the bar, of the pain in the room, of the rage and betrayal, of his silent support, of his respect, of the strength she found here. She turns to him, looks into his dark, serious eyes. I'm already in, she says simply, and I'm not going to quit. He nods. Once. That's enough. They stand shoulder to shoulder on the edge of the roof, looking out over their city, the battlefield, the arena of their new, shared life. Fear and wagers are a thing of the past. Ahead lies only them, their strength, their mutual respect, and the quiet, unspoken devotion that is stronger than any vow. The game is really just beginning, and now they're playing on the same team.